we're going to get the TLC experience. The Ley Community is going to come. Wendy's going to talk, and I think she's got some other speakers planned as well. I've known Wendy for some time, and I've known the Ley for some time, but I worked there recently, and I'm still doing a bit of work there on and off. And I feel like, even though I went to Yeldal, and I'm part of the Yeldal family, that I've been adopted by the Ley Community family. And I go there a lot, and every time I go there, I'm blown away by the stuff that they do. The person I've probably had the most contact with recently, other than Wendy and Mick, who I've known for many years, is probably Guy. Guy's here today. Where is he? He's over there. He's on the camera. He's working. He's working. This man never stops. Guy has been a real supporter of the cafe. He brings guys along. He always offers people a lift. He comes along. He's always enthusiastic. And I just wanted to mark him out this morning for you because he's a real asset. Right, so before I cry again and spoil it all, I'm going to introduce Wendy to you. Wendy Dawson.
Good morning, people in recovery, and ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. Oh, that'll be us then. I just want to really thank Bubbles for inviting us here today. It's a real honour and a privilege to be part of today's recovery. Many years ago, I owe my life to a lady called Maggie Mills, who sadly passed away because she's about 105 now. And she put me on the right road, and it's sad in one respect because I had to hide the fact that I was an addict for many years, because in the early 80s it wasn't the thing to come out and say that actually you'd been into rehab. Now, thankfully, we can hold our hands up high and actually say we are people in recovery. I'm auditioning for the first female part for Doctor Who. Those of you who are Doctor Who. So anybody wants to put my name forward, please do. Matching, black watch, boots and waistcoat, and a long jacket. The first thing I'd like you to do is just listen to some instruction that I'm going to give. If you could all just close your eyes. You don't need to peep, just close your eyes. Now, for most of you, you'll be seeing black, bits of pink, bits of brown, bits of sparkling light. This is giving you a bit of an experience of what it is to be an addict or an alcoholic. No vision, no particular sight, a bit of darkness, a bit of sparkling. If you open your eyes, this is the light. This is the first beginning of recovery, and this is what happens when we open our eyes at the Ley Community. People come to us in the dark. People come to us with flashing lights, with pink, with green, with black, with blue. They're not really where they need to be yet. Through the Ley Community, they find the light, they find the faith in themselves, and ultimately they find sustained recovery. The Ley Community was established in 1971 by two very forward-thinking psychiatrists of the day, Dr. Bertram Mandelbrot and Dr. Peter Agornick, who set up a clinic at Littlemore, which is in Oxford, some of you may or may not be aware of, which is a mental health unit. And they kept seeing people come through the doors that actually, once their alcohol or the drug wasn't there, there actually weren't that too many mental health issues going on for them. And they decided to look around to see what else was out there to support people in recovery through addiction. And they went to the States, and in the States, in the late 50s, early 60s, was an intervention called Synanon. And Synanon was a bit of a cult, really, because it was people in recovery who decided actually the system was failing them, so they'd lock themselves away in a community, and they'd live and breathe and work together. And it was a living, real recovery community, abstinence, peer-driven, and self-help. That model then became known as the concept houses, because it was all based on concepts and consequences. What then grew from that was the therapeutic community, and it was called the Phoenix, New York model. And our founders went and experienced residential rehab for themselves in the Phoenix, New York model. Thought it was fantastic because it was a social model of intervention, not a medical model. It was all totally abstinence by people in recovery. No professionals, no qualified, educated people, just ordinary folk in recovery. And they brought the model back to the UK, and we were one of the first dedicated drug and alcohol residential rehabilitation centres in the UK for men and women. Our philosophy is a therapeutic community, which is peer-driven, self-help and abstinence. And that's total abstinence. You struggle to get an aspirin, don't you guys and girls from the Ley? Because what we do is we say, actually, we're preparing you for the world of work. It's a tough, challenging, demanding programme. But people recover, people sustain their recover. We have a 91% success of completion of this first part of the programme, which is 6 months. And then you move into resettlement, which is 12 weeks, and we have an 84% continued abstinence post-discharge 12 months later. There is no other residential rehab, apart from Yildon, that can match that. We break the cycle of addiction, we break the cycle of offending, and we break the cycle of welfare dependency. Because everybody completes our programme into full-time employment, secured on the open market, and they move out into independent living, no longer in treatment, in recovery. Our whole theme throughout the programme is relapse prevention. But it's tough, as I said before. Why is it tough? It's tough because you're up at 6:30 and your bed space at 10, and you don't watch telly, and you don't lounge around. What you do is you get involved in departments. It's like a little commune. So we have a 5-acre site. So you get up and you're on departments. You might be on housekeeping, you might be on kitchens, you might be on admin, you might be on grounds. Because what we're trying to embed is right living, an understanding of self through active participation with peers in recovery. You're going to feed the chickens, you're going to feed the ducks, the birds in the aviary. You're going to learn to cook. If you couldn't cook when you came to the Ley Community, you will be when you leave. If you can't read and write, you will be able to when you leave the Ley Community. If you can't understand yourself or don't believe in yourself, you will by the time you leave the Ley Community. We are quite simply a centre of excellence for recovery. The demanding element of the recovery process is because we have to prepare you for work readiness. You cannot not get up at 6:30 in the morning. You just cannot. Because your peers will be down on you. Your peers will be saying, you have to get out of bed. You have to get to work. Because if we didn't break that cycle of welfare dependency and a dependency on yourself to get out of bed, work with peers and earn some money, you won't crack your addiction. The world of work is the only way to break your full addiction, because you substitute that for work, you substitute the idleness, you substitute the robbing by actually feeling really great when you come home and you've earned your wages. Everybody goes into full-time employment now. Often people say to me, in this climate, how do people get full-time employment? Well, like you and I do. They go out and look for it. We don't give them it. It's a self-help, peer-driven programme. We enable people to actually look at their skills. So I was a dealer. I've got great transferable skills, interpersonal skills, good with maths, good with money. Great. I'm a great asset. I can look at you and I can see inside you. I know exactly what you're about. I'm a great marketeer. I had to be. So all of those are transferable, and that's what we do with the guys and girls in the Ley. We look at who were you, what were you, what are you going to be, what's your aspirations. In phase 2 of the programme, after you've been therapy to death for 26 weeks, you move into phase 2. That's a really scary point, because then it's a reality check. You've been clean and sober, and now you have to put a CV together. Now you have to go out into voluntary work. You have to get the bus into Oxford without addict, alcoholic on your head. You have to speak to people and they don't move their handbag. So you have to kind of learn that. You have to become deinstitutionalised, and it is the weirdest experience. You go out and there's noise. You sit on a bus and think, what's all this noise? Oh, it's people talking. And people say, good morning. You go, good morning. it's a lovely day. Yeah, it's a lovely day. And then eventually you go, good morning. You go, oh, good morning, lovely day. Where are you going today, Michael? I'm going to voluntary work. Oh, where's that then? Oh, you're on to nurseries. You learn to communicate. You learn the social skills of interaction, and suddenly you realise what all your intervention has been about, to enable you to understand right living, to enable you to connect to anybody. One of the great things about the Ley community is you can walk proud. Everybody that comes to the Ley community, visitors, tell me after their visit, I have never met such honest people. I have never met people who can look you in the eye without blinking, without looking to the floor. Because we are proud of what we do, and we are proud of everybody in the Ley community. The toughness makes you strong. We use concepts. So I mentioned before synonym concept houses. The concept houses was actually in effect what we now call our unique selling point in the marketing world. We haven't lost the traditional therapeutic community. And the concepts we've looked at, and we worked with Huseyin at the beginning of the year to do a strategic review to make sure we were fit for purpose going forward in the new commissioning landscape, to make sure that we were absolutely a centre of excellence in recovery. But what makes us different from particularly 12-step models? What makes us different is that we have these concepts. So, for example, the onion concept. Those of you who do cook, when you cut into an onion, quite often it makes you cry. So the onion concept, what we say is, we're going to peel back the layers. And part of peeling back the layers is, you will get emotional. If you've suffered trauma, abuse, we're going to help you deal with it. We're not armchair analysts, we're not psychiatrists, we're not psychologists, we're human beings in recovery, helping people in recovery. We enable you to have the ability to talk through whatever issue it is. We never judge. We are not interested in who you were, we're interested in who you're going to be. We don't care if you're the Prime Minister or the road sweeper. At the end of the day, you're a person in recovery and we will support you. We don't care whatever your life has been involved in, we don't care where you've come from. We care about what you're going to do. And that's why it's tough, because you have to sit in a group work session with somebody telling you what to think of you. You've got to sit in a group work session where you're going to expose your soul, but the power of recovery is because people do not judge. We have shared experience, we have different experience, but the one element that is absolutely true is that we all believe in everybody. To be challenged and supported by your peer is tough. If your peer says, Bubbles, no, sorry mate, you're not pulling your weight, you need to come on grounds with me. And Bubbles says, Wen, come on, there's nobody about, come on, give us a break. I'll go, Bubbles, okay, I'm going to put a recommendation on you because you're manipulating me. Do you understand? And Bubbles will go, oh, come on, Wen, there's nobody there. And I'll say, okay, I'm putting a double rec on you. In fact, go and sit on the bench. And he'd have to. Now, the bench is a tried and tested methodology that we use, and it always still fascinates me. I'm a 53-year-old and I still get fascinated in my own programme. My own programme, that's very self-centred, isn't it? In our programme. The bench was a tool that, because we deal with men and women, and of course sometimes we lose the plot, sometimes we get angry, sometimes we get lost, and it's a bit like the naughty step. You go and sit on a bench, and it gives you the opportunity just to chill out, and it's fascinating. If somebody goes, we go bench, okay, stop bench. If you can't read and write, there's pictures, just about the philosophy. If you can read, there's a poem. And you sit there, and it's amazing, it's like ants. There's a red sign goes out. All of the community respect and respond without panic. Staff don't even get involved, because staff are there to facilitate. The community itself is the antagonist, the facilitator of change, rather than any one given individual counsellor. So it's the community intervention, the social intervention. The community itself is the facilitator of the change process. So if you're on the bench, you could be on the bench for 5 minutes to 8 hours. But you will be supported, you'll be offered comfort, food, drink, well, coffee, tea, obviously juice. And that opportunity just to reflect. And it's a really powerful tool because we give you that time just to chill out and sit out, because it is a very different, challenging environment that you've never been used to before. And then you come back and you don't get chastised for that. It's okay, get on with it. Get back in the kitchen, cook the dinner. And what the whole purpose of that is because when you get in the world of work, the chair of my board rang me last night and said, Wendy, I need you to send an email at 8:45 at night. I thought, oh, okay. You know, I have to do it. I couldn't say, well, sorry Fiona, it's my leisure time now, it's 8:45 at night, I'm having a cup of coffee with my partner. I have to go, because I'm responsible. Now, that's learned behaviour. So I have unlearned bad behaviour for learned good behaviour. That's what the Ley Community does. We teach right living. We enable people to live independently, freedom, free from any dependency. Our community is a stage progression of learning. It's like the University of Life, really. You don't come in the door and we give you the Ley Community manual. What I say to people is, it's Planet Zog here. The first 2 weeks, trust me, Planet Zog, you wouldn't know what's going on. And a bell will go. And a new person, we call people residents. We don't call them service users, we don't call them clients, we don't call them patients. They're residents, they live there. So if a new resident comes in, we'll say, a bit like Planet Zog here, and a bell will go. And they go, well, what's the bell? Yeah, don't worry about it. It's 2 buddies, always, just 2 buddies, first 2 weeks in safety net, they'll look after you. Now as adults, we want to know what's going on. It's people who demand things from society, want to know what's going on. And I always think the Ley Community is a bit like a folk tale. You're only given enough information to be able to extract and understand what's going on. Folk tales, you go, what's all that about? When you listen and listen and listen, you think, I know. I was 40-year-old before I was allowed to have the Christmas recipe for the cake. 40. Eventually, my mother said, I might pass that down to you now, you're 40. Oh, great. Because the ingredients, I could look in a book and get the ingredients, but the special ingredients that was my mummy's ingredients, I wasn't allowed to have. I didn't know what it was, just got a recipe. But what I did know was I wasn't able to understand the process of making a Christmas cake, because it wasn't about the ingredients. It was about the whole process of making it for now my family. And that's like the Ley Community. We bring you into the TLC family. That's the Ley Community. Tender Love and Care Ley Community. That was Huseyin's. We bring people in, and we don't give them the manual straight off, because the manual's kind of this thick. What we say is just learn and just listen. And it's a bit like the stages to wisdom. So the first stage is silence. The second stage is listening. The third stage is remembering. The fourth stage is practicing. And the fifth stage is teaching. And that's why the Ley Community is successful, because the silence is the most important beginning of people's recovery. If you don't stop the chatterbox, if you don't stop your headspace, your body, and begin the process of recovery, you will not have sustained recovery. The silence, the listening, the remembering, the practicing, the teaching. And you're going to hear from some people from the Ley Community just after I shut up, and they put all this into practice. That's what we do really well, and that's why I know that the Ley Community is a centre of excellence for recovery. If you want to come and have a look at our model of intervention, please come. You're very, very welcome to meet the guys and girls in recovery, see how our programme works. And it is important to us today because the Ley Community has come a long way in 42 years. We used to be a bit harsher, a bit different, and now we recognise people have changed, we recognise the recovery agenda has changed, and we recognise we need to be much more respectful and support for people in recovery continued. Our aftercare is one of the best in the country, and that's what people also come to the Ley Community for, because we never say goodbye. I probably talk far too much.